We'll be right back after this important word.
A joint. Ever had one? It really sets you up, especially at breakfast time. That lovely mild flavor. Gets you up quicker than anything that does. Up and away. A good joint sends you off to a flying start. Puts you way out ahead of the rest of the crowd all day. Gives you energy to keep you going. Joints. Grab a basket and nibble along the process.
Hey, and on that one, welcome. Ooh,
A joint.
that's a bit weird. Okay. Fuck. Yeah, we're clearly back because it's fucking chaos. Live once again. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to episode 29 of the Operation Grow Show, season 5. Yeah, as I concluded, we're back. We're live this week once again. Hang on, let me unpin myself. Hope everyone is good. So yeah, let's have a quick round, see how everybody's doing. Lefty, you seem to be doing a perfect time to ask you how you are when you're deep in middle of doing something else. How you doing, bud?
I'm picking seeds out of my weed so I can smoke. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. You know, first class problems are
Yeah.
pulling seeds out of my weed. But yeah, everything's going good. Greenhouse is looking good, battling a little bit of a PM issue on one of the hemp strains. So
Oh yeah.
well, we can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, everything other than that, I mean, everything's going good. It's Central Virginia in the beginning of August, and it's hot and humid, and you know, it's just rough on everything. But other than that, everything's going good, man. How's everybody else doing this week?
Yeah, I'm doing good. The yeah, I was at that event last weekend. That was interesting. We spoke a little bit about that actually. You know, sort of like some of the stuff that I got to see and what was going on. But yeah, we can go from there. Hey, Raptor Bud, how you doing there?
Doing well. How's it going, everyone? Hope you all had a good start to the weekend. I'm doing pretty good. Big updates with my tent. The transplanting was successful. Thank you again, GMF, to recommending the Suncast, I believe was the brand, but they no longer have the sub-irrigated planters available. Check out Blow 'em. They're available at Target. Or also do some research into check out the design features on those, and if you could find something similar at a more affordable price, go for that. But I really like them. It seems to be that for the time being, they only need one watering a week. So as they develop some root mass, I'm sure that'll be more consistent. Yeah, it's going good. I checked out if I actually did a full amending of the soil when I transplanted everything, and they love it. Everything's sprouting up really well. Any deficiencies that I saw before, because I was very careful, they recommend that if you do amend at full strength, that you leave it for a week to compost and let everything marinate basically. And I didn't have a month to let everything go, so I just did it at 3/4 strength. It did great. If I had transplanted a week to a week and a half earlier, it would have been much better, and I wouldn't have seen any like chlorosis of the leaves. It was starting to look pretty interesting on some of them on the bottom leaves, and that was just my cue to see, know everything's starting to lose some nutrients. So yeah, they took very well. Yeah, I'm really liking how it's all working out. The Paradiso Gelato and the Orange Ice Pop from Lebanon Arise Genetics, those actually showed much denser root mass a week earlier. So I recommend, if you're looking to her genetics, be on top of everything. They seem to be really hungry. I had mentioned this before on one of my own lives that I'm not sure her feeding regimen. So I want to send her a private message and say, hey, how did you grow these? What were your conditions? You don't have to give where you live, but just, you know, environmental conditions would be nice from the breeder. So that's another test that I want to do on the breeder's part. Hey, that's a big deal for me. If I send you a message, and I you know, I allow like a week. If it's any more than a week and you're not getting to me and, you know, you're a breeder, you should start picking up or at least have someone like helping you out that can do that. Now, if you were sick or, you know, you're ailing in some way or another, totally understand, you know, life happens. But if you're trying to do everything, yeah, that's one thing I want to really stress to everyone out there. Have a good conversation with your breeder beforehand, or maybe even as you're growing, preferably beforehand, so you know what you're getting into. If I had tried to speak to her earlier, I would have known, hey, if she's a bottle feeder, how far she pushes everything, if she goes light on her feedings, if she likes to stress them out, if she really wants to pump them full of nutrients and give them the best chance for everything. That's how I kind of see her plants going out. Like they're really heavy feeders. So I've been noticing that with the breeders that are more bottle fed, like with Jeff's stuff, there's some hungry plants, you know, be on
Yeah,
top, make sure,
certainly
and
that
good root
is
mass.
that's definitely a trait of Jeff's plants. I think that was noticed in with the orange gasm as well. Was definitely that they were um hungry. They were definitely hungry plants, and I think that actually caught a few people out initially was just how hungry they were in terms of you can actually feed them pretty heavily. Um,
Yeah,
and
they'd
then
take
No.
they're not
they'd take
shy.
anything you throw at them. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm.
Well,
Hey, and GMF, how you
go ahead.
doing, sir?
How's it going,
Sorry.
GMF? No,
Oh, hey,
no.
no worries. Just doing my own little crazy experiments. That's about it. Can't complain, buddy. You know me, I always got something in the works, whether it's a breeding project right now with that golden goat, or trying to screw around with cloning methodologies. It's part of being a little off my rocker. I'm always doing something stupid.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and how did your ferment and all of that go? Did they progress
Oh,
further?
excellent. Oh yeah, they look fantastic. I'm actually right now. Funny you mentioned that. I just ordered the bottles for it, so I'm going to go ahead and process it into 6 different beverages, and then those 6 beverages plus the jars of the fermented and unfermented are all going to go for testing. So it looks like I'm going to have 8 elements. I'm going to try to get tested.
Okay, cool, man.
So now that the weed is actually cured to the point where I would actually start dipping into it and using it, now I'm going to process it and send it in for testing. So it's going to become the drinks. I'm hoping will only take, once I get the bottles on hand, because I'm going to try to do 500 milliliters of a sample. So I'm going to work with 750 ml bottles, just to leave myself a headspace. Definitely don't want to cause a bottle bomb and have anything explode. So because I'm going to naturally ferment all this stuff. So it's all going to take place within one vessel. So no using like a pressure vessel and something like that. I'm trying to do this as, with as few variables as possible, which means really trying to dial in as short a process as possible for processing.
Yeah.
About it. About it. About ready to make some beverages. Like I said, right now, funny enough, I've been going around I'm calling my local brew shops. None of them have bottles in stock at the moment. So they're all
because getting hold of the sand to make the glass became a problem.
Glass and plastic. They don't have either one at the moment. So bottles are just, most home brewers now are having to recycle them from what they're drinking or from what they're using. But yeah, so that's been my holdup is actually trying to locate bottles. And I try not to buy from Amazon whenever possible, but I literally can't find them locally. And I have multiple brew shops.
At Perpetual, I think, there's 2 lots of fermenting. It's fermentation into alcohol itself, if I'm not mistaken on this one, GMF, but also the cob fermentation side of things being the other one.
We fermented it,
and that was
exactly.
I mean, that would have been, I wish I'd had some of that with me in allegedly wherever I'd been the other weekend, because that would have really taken people back. Damn it, man. Because I must say, when I was there and sampled lots of different people's home grows from all over the place, nothing really stood out. To be perfectly honest, there was nothing that was like, wow. It was all
Knock
kind
down your
of,
heels.
yeah, there was some different smells and whatnot, but really it was all pretty much the same.
Samey.
You go, hmm.
That's sad.
I mean, I had some edibles that were really nice. They were like, whoa, okay, that's it.
That's a value-added product. You're
It
paying
had
the chef there.
140 milligrams on one sticker on the front, and then it had 1,000 milligrams and another sticker on the back. It's like, okay, that's quite a difference. Which one is it? I will say, after
When you want it to be.
having just a little bite of it, it was definitely the 1,000 milligram one. It wasn't the 140 milligrams. Because after eating the whole thing, yeah, it came on like a fucking freight train. And
Sounds like you had a good time.
yeah. Good stuff. But it was typical British weather. On the late Saturday, it just tipped it down. And then on Sunday, it was raining as well. It's like, nah, screw this. I'm out of here. But best thing ever was getting there. A tent was already pitched, ready to go. Walk in, throw your shit in, and then leave. And it's somebody else's problem to take down a wet tent. Don't worry about drying it. Oh, that was the best feeling, just walking away from it. That's the worst bit about camping when it's been raining. Is you've got to figure out where you're going to hang up this bloody tent indoors now for the next however many days, weeks for it to fucking dry. But also then walking around the place, because it was a trade event. It was interesting. I mean, it's lights and nutrients. That's pretty much it. And I didn't see anything cutting edge or revolutionary. It's almost like the industry stalling on new technologies. What was really interesting is that there was not. I mean, I didn't have a stall there as PL Grow Systems. I just wanted to have a social, but there was not another single environment monitoring product on show, which I found quite interesting. Yeah, that was really like, wow, nobody's got anything. It was all just lights and nutrients. It was crazy.
Well, good to know the landscape you're playing in.
Yeah, when I spoke to a few people about the infrared thing, that certainly sparked some interest. What was fascinating is I got to talk to one company that was a distributor that at one point was looking at our product, and the guy said it created so much division in the company as to what it was or what it wasn't, that he just said, I can't handle this, man. I thought, well, that was interesting. I mean, but hey. Anyway, on those notes, how's people's grows going in terms of this season and the projects that everybody's working on? I mean, there's Lefty busy shucking seeds.
Yeah, I got a run going right now that I'm gonna finish up, and then I'm gonna start digging through the Banana OG Rise line and seeing which direction I'm gonna take it. All depends on what I find in this first generation of seeds. But yeah, I may F2 it and reverse it, or I may just reverse it and back cross or go that route. It just depends on what I find.
Yep.
So,
well, that was I mean, there was one lot there that had something that apparently had banana in it, and what was interesting because it straight away made me think of what you were doing, and they were passing it. I didn't get to smell it, but I watched it being passed around, and it was interesting to see. Like a couple of people go, "Oh yeah, I really smell the banana," and others are like, "No, don't get it." That was fascinating to watch how some people are picking up on it and others just couldn't detect it at all. I would love to have had a sniff of it, but it was just a bit too busy at the time.
what I found in mine, and I grew out F3s, and unless I talked to the breeder, I'm not sure which direction he took them, but they're pretty heavy OG. They're just pretty gassy. I actually had 5 different females that finished out, and some of them you pop the jar and you get a little bit of a banana. And what I mean by banana is more of like a banana peel, or like if you were to open up like a grocery sack and there had been bananas in there, it's more of like that. It's very benign. It isn't like a banana candy. It isn't heavy banana. It isn't like you're sucking on, a banana runts. It isn't anything like that. It's very benign. It's more OG. So I don't know which way Zoolander took it. If he looked to do more of like an OG side of it from the F2s, but the one I used, I didn't smoke it. It was so heavily seeded that nothing developed on it. It was just all seed. So and it wasn't the plan to seed it out the first time. It just the male went crazy and it just got all over everything. So it happened sooner than what I wanted to. But the one I initially chose was more sweet. It was of all 5 of them, it had a heavier sweetness to it. So I believe it had a little bit more of the banana, actual like candy or banana to it than the other ones did. But yeah, I'm gonna pop those and kind of see what we find in those. But that's the next round. So hopefully here in the next couple months, I'll be popping those and I'm going to take a good look through them. And yeah, I got a few out to buddies too, and hoping they pop them soon and kind of see what they find as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens. They're all really good growing, really vigorous plants. Really, really good smoke. Like I said, it's very OG. I mean, you pop them and it's kind of a weird, funky, a little bit of that gassy smell, and ain't real strong. It's definitely got that OG odor to it. So, yeah, it'll be fun to pop through them. I sent a bunch of them to Jeff. I'll be interested to see if he decides to pop any of them or not. But I sent him everything by a rise, and we'll see what happens.
No. It'll be interesting to follow it. It really will be, and then especially to see. I mean, it will be quite curious to watch the F1 and then F2. I mean, this is the inbreeding F1, F2, F3 lines, and to see. I mean, what is your countability there? Because to me, it's still the one key ingredient that is missing from the real ability to do this is that plant count and the ability to plant 100, 200 plants. It should be, as a smallholder like you are, you've got enough land to almost classify yourself as a small holding, small little farm. You should be able to plant 200-300 plants out in a field. That would just be the ideal. It really would.
I agree. No, that'd be nice. I mean, outdoors, I do have the space to be able to do something like that outdoors, and I'd love to be able to do that. And maybe the future, when they get all the laws set here, because they just finally got like the marijuana control board, I believe is what they're going to call it. All the people just got appointed to it here about a month ago. So, they got to get everything in place, and we'll see what the licensing is going to be set up like and stuff like that. So maybe it'd be an opportunity where I can, kind of do that, and, won't necessarily of the pocket to do a 200 plant pheno hunt, but it'll definitely be fun.
Yeah, I mean, we need to find somebody, if a friend of the show that is in a position that they can do it. I mean, I do think there is one person who actually is in a position where they could do it, and it would be really fascinating to then say, okay, let's plant out. I would just be able to take 2 stable lines, get that F1 cross from 2 stable lines, plant out 100, get photographs of that field being done, and then do an F2 off that and take a picture of, the same, another plot of 100, take a picture of that and look at the difference, and then, do the F3, just to see visually how different they look when you're doing them as you go down the line, and how suddenly at one point they kind of all snap back to, there's degree of consistency again.
Speaking of friends of the show, cheers, Magma.
Hey, cheers. Magma, how you doing, buddy?
Buddy, good. Yes, everyone.
Nice of you to join us. Yeah. So yeah, that would be 200 plants is 2 to 300 square meters, he Perpetual saying. Well, and 2 to 300 square meters is nothing. That's only 10 by 30. I mean, that's a really small, that's not a big area. 1 square meter per plant. Yeah. You need probably a bit more than 1 square meter, maybe, because that's, yeah, you'd be doing a lot of trimming to keep them in the 1 square meter. But it would just be nice to be able to do that. Oh, well, yeah, that would be the ultimate. What did you say, Magma? Would you love to have that capability just to be able to plant out a few plots of, 500, 500, 500, 500?
Yeah, absolutely.
How's the season and that going for you down there?
It's gone quite good. I had like a short harvest so far with some of the sativas and taken down most of my lemon apricots. And now a bunch of the sativas are back in re-veg, and I have the whole bedroom ready with lots of different moms that I'm just getting cloned, and then they're all going into flower.
Nice. Actually, I like that discussion there with like sativas and that. You should have another one of the debates. Sativa indica, is it really a thing, or is it more of a profile?
Oh, I know what side I'm on.
A chemical
I think-
profile.
That's a big
I
can.
think it's probably better with narrow leaf, broad leaf, or short or really tall plants. But if you start growing them outdoors, even the indicas get really big. So
Exactly. I think it's like more that it's more the chemical profile that you can, the chemotype is more, and a certain sedative chemotype is more common in higher latitude plants than in ones closer to the equator. But then again, I mean, you get sativas you can grow on the equator that'll just knock you out cold. I think that maybe it's because, I mean, I don't I can't get into this topic now, but is it because maybe more often than not people accidentally harvest plants that are used to growing on the equator far too early, and so it has that speedy kind of kick to it, whereas if they let it run for 15, 16, 18 weeks, you'd be in exactly the same place as you were. I mean, if you chop down a indica 4 weeks early, I'm sure it also gives you a bit of a shock to the system. So how long it takes for those certain cannabinoid profiles to develop takes longer in some of them. I don't know, just an idea to throw out there.
it seems like at least they carry some terps and stuff that I don't normally see in like more hybrid indica leaning or broadleaf varieties.
I kind of got curious on this exact topic a little while ago, so I did some digging around. And the best research I came across was a guy named, he's a doctor named Arno Haaskamp, I believe is how you say his name. I'm not sure exactly, but he's Dutch. And he went around and he basically did a survey study where he took in a number of different samples from, verified sources that claimed what they had was a quote unquote indica. And he did an aggregate survey where he broke them down to their constituent parts, basically looking to see, okay, what do these things have in common? What do they not? Ultimately, he came up with a range of about 5 alcoholic-based terpenes and terpenoids that actually are endemic to these particular groups that aren't found typically in what we call quote-unquote sativa. So this is some of the best research I've seen on it so far. And again, that's Dr. Arno Haaskamp, Hazekamp. He's a doctor out of Holland. And after reading his work for a bit, it's clear that there is a chemovar classification that we could use, but it's going to be more of a quote unquote, it's going to be, these are capable of creating this profile, whereas things that are typically classified as sativa don't seem to be creating this profile. If that makes sense. They're all alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe become the better classification. Yeah, chemovar. What are you actually doing? You know, and that so it doesn't. Yeah, because you can get it from and also given how muddied the things have become these days, like okay, it's got a bit of everything in it. But then we're trying to get something that produces this chemovar so we can harvest it, and it may do that at a different point along its life cycle.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's what I said when I got curious, I went digging around just for the best research I could find on the topic at the time. And it seems to be this guy, and he did it by survey. So he's kind of trying to throw out the, it was all in finished products, so nothing taken early. It was all, you know what I mean? It was stuff that was meant for the consumer market. So he was trying to at least get some standardized sample of what are people perceiving. So good on him for doing some decent science.
yeah, if you know the guy's full name, pop it in chat and I'll ping it into the YouTube chat.
Will do.
Because I think I forget where I posted a link somewhere that had a relatively like decent explanation the difference between indica, sativa, and a hybrid plant. I'll post that link up. I found it quite interesting when it was. That was quite interesting. Certainly an interesting take. Well, no, it's not an interesting take. That one there from you. There we go. Yeah. Now, what about yourself there, Raptor? How's your scarlet begonias by scarlet begonias coming along? Or were those the ones that you... That wasn't the transplant you'd done earlier, was it? Sorry.
No, those were the, I actually wanted to get those Love in Our Eyes genetics going because a certain breeder we know gifted that to me, and he was like, hey, keep me in the know, kind of a deal. So I was just like, well, it was a gift. I've been getting a lot of gifts lately, but especially those seem like something very interesting to me. I'd never run gelato of the Paradiso gelato. That's one of the parents within it. And I just wanted to see what it was all about. I mean, here I am saying like, oh, I don't really grow hype, but and what I mean by that is I want to support more the people out in the community that's like, hey, I don't need to grow X from Y breeder because everyone else is. I can grow this other stuff and explore that and maybe find a gem in there that is the new, it's going to be the new X. But that's how I like it. But I was able to pop one of the Scarlet by Scarlet, and that one did not seem to like the new quantum boards that I set up. So I transplanted it into some new Coots mix. It seemed to be doing just fine now. It's recuperating. It had some shriveled up leaves, and it was the only one out of all those genetics to express that. And I happened to pop some Strawberry Starburst by Blue City Diesel by Blueberry Skunk. And then the last two are their own separate thing. Yeah, that one was from my friend. I really like them. They're producing really big seeds. I would say they're double the size of the Scarlet by Scarlet. I'm really liking them.
Interesting.
They're seem to be nice and squatty. I'm looking forward to the candy mixed with blueberry, kind of a stinky chemi blueberry. So we'll see what comes out, what's more dominant, what's more recessive, if anything mixes together randomly. We'll see. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to those Scarlet by Scarlets though, because it's just going to be a nice little insight of like, hey, what's going to happen with it. I have so many seeds from that last run of just letting it, letting the male do what a male does.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple hundred. So
easily
from one plant. That's just from one plant, and that's the taller one of the girls. So it's for the friends out there that I promised those Scarlet by Scarlets to, you'll be looking forward to it. If you can run it outside, take pictures. I can't wait to send it to a certain friend in particular. He's been telling me to hold off on some seeds, and it's starting to turn into a pile, man. You know who you are. So I hope
They'll pile up
you can
real
resolve
quick.
everything soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll pile up real quick.
I'm
And
really
then,
liking them.
You know, that's actually, you raised an interesting thing there about the size of the seeds.
Hmm.
I am suspecting that you'll get, excuse me. Excuse me. I mean, I don't know what other people's experience with this is, but bigger seeds are broader leafed plants. Tiny little seeds. Now, okay, so this in terms of like typical, what is considered indica dominant tends to be like the bigger seeds, and usually the smaller seeds tend to be more on the sativa dominant side in terms of morphology, should we say.
I've really noticed now that you're saying something, those the strawberry starburst crosses that I'm messing around with, they're much more stout, broader leaves, seem to have way more even spacing within nodal spacing. So I'm really liking them, and I think Cascadian even mentioned, like, we were having this discussion with smaller and bigger seeds and like why that might occur. He was basically saying it could be because we'll use Afghan varieties, for example. Those will be bigger because they might need, well, think of their environment. It's a very harsh environment. They might need more nutrients and to fit in that little shell, to like fit into the embryo and like have everything be in just a stasis of waiting to get water and soil.
And they're probably much faster metabolizing plants as well, because their entire life cycle is more accelerated. So the
shorter weeks.
Exactly. So the whole thing is about go. So it's got a big packful to get itself going. Whereas stuff grown in the tropics, when it falls into the tropical soil, it's a bit of a slower thing, not less of a worry.
It's kind of like the
definitely a
lifestyle
richer
of tropical
environment.
people. You know, people of tropics like, hey, it'll get done when it gets done. A couple weeks longer. Don't worry about it. You'll like it though.
You want this in what? 10 weeks?
I could do
it's ready when it's ready.
Yeah,
it's ready when it's ready, buddy. So yeah, that's definitely one thing you'll know. I mean, I definitely noticed that with Durban poison seeds. They're tiny little things. They're really small.
I've definitely noticed in the gambit of different plants that got pollinated here with all the seeds. Yeah, I got real tiny. The Bigsby got pollinated, and that has real tiny black seeds, and that NL5 haze, that TK NL5 haze had real small seeds, and then the Bigsby had black seeds, so it's real small. This is funny because the black went with the real small, real. But yeah, some are real big, like frosted apricots got hit, and that has real big seeds. And yeah, it's just kind of funny seeing the gambit of different sized seeds. Some are striped, some of them are like the banana OG are like a gray color. They're lighter, not really striping, and then the frosted apricots got like real heavy, tiger striping on them. So it's just really interesting to see how they all turned out different.
Yeah, but can you tell which ones are male and female by looking at them, huh? That's the real trick.
You got to see if it's got the little thing on the pointed end. Yeah. Oh shit.
No, you couldn't keep that going just for a couple seconds.
No. Because someone will take it seriously. That's the problem.
Well, we do that.
Well,
we kind of
would
go
be
nuts with this
interesting.
stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean with that wide variety, but you suddenly see like all of the seeds that came from this plant all look similar. I mean, there's variation amongst them, but they definitely all have a similar kind of look. And that would be an interesting exercise in the computer vision space would be to just crunch all of them and see what commonalities, what it could actually draw out and go, no, okay, hang on, this is that. And classification on seeds. Mind thinking. Oh, well.
Do you think the male
There goes
changes
the weekend.
seed size? You think the male can change the seed size?
It would be a fascinating experiment to find out.
I've used the deep chunk both ways. So I've gotten deep chunk females pregnant with deep chunk pollen. Then I've gotten deep chunk pollen on other males or other females. And it really seems like my guess is it seems completely female dependent, because seeds that come out of deep chunk, it doesn't matter. It seems like what I've crossed them with, they look like deep chunk seeds that but maybe I'm completely wrong there. So
deep chunks really highly like dominant too. So I mean, yeah, it could be.
Funny enough, I got one of those tests running right now. We're going to see how dominant it is. I put it up against my Pakistani Chitral Kush by Superdog, and I'm going to say the P word. I have a limited plant count, so I have to be very judicious, but I wanted to at least let this one run and see what kind of looks I got from it.
What I think would be good is, I don't know, like in Lefty, in all the seeds you're doing there, like you suddenly see in amongst all the ones that you're getting from the plant, there's one that looks different. Like there's one smaller compared to all the others. I mean, like that's what I've noticed. You'll get like there's a few almost like outliers in the seeds themselves. There's a whole bunch of them that are in roughly the same, and then suddenly you'll get outliers, like a few really big seeds and a few really small seeds in amongst all the others. And it would be a curious one to plant out and say, okay, plant all the small ones, plant all the bigger ones, and then plant, like 10, 10, 10 of each, and see what kind of difference, if there is any, between the plants.
I've also noticed there's a difference in how heavily seeded the plant is, how big the seeds get. So, for example, if things just dusted in pollen and every single stamen starts trying to take on pollen, the seeds overall are going to be smaller. But if you're more judicious about it and it's just a little here, a little there, no matter what, I think you end up with bigger, fatter seeds. And I don't know if that's part of a survival mechanism, but it's what I've been noticing here and there. I've done selective pollination now with a makeup brush. So I'm noticing that I'm getting kind of that response when I'm doing it selectively.
It can put
versus just skeet everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, well, it can put more, it doesn't have to divide all of the energy up across 10,000 seeds, and it got to do it across 100 seeds.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is a jar of everything but the one pheno of the banana OG that I pollinated. Just as I break up stuff and smoke, I put any of the banana OG seeds I come across going here. So there's 4 different phenos of the banana OG. There's a lot of immature seeds in here. There's a lot of different size seeds in here. All the mature ones are mature. Some of them are small, some of them are big, and there's a significant difference in some of the seed sizes. And these were all in the same corner within, 2 to 3 feet of each other at the very most. So, it's just really interesting. I'm kind of with what GMF is saying, is that the female really has a deciding factor in, how big these seeds are going to be, because these were all the ones that just kind of got pollinated just haphazardly, just from the plant coming in there, just pollen blowing around. They didn't actually go in the pollinating room. So, they all pollinated the same way. So, it's interesting, but I just popped this jar and started looking in here, and there's definitely different size
your
seeds.
Project for next week. By next weekend, then, Lefty, your homework is to have them all sorted into sizes, and then we'll do a bell curve distribution of a histogram of the seed sizes, and we'll see where the normal size is and where the outliers.
Yeah, dude, I'll get my hash.
Did you all just suddenly join the spectrum?
Oh man.
But because
I almost guarantee if you take those out and you pour them out on the table, you just mush them out, so that you'll see, like, okay, there's the vast majority are like almost the same. You can kind of get rid of those really quickly, and there's like a really small number that just suddenly stand out from the rest. Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much of your outlier selection process could almost start to be done at the seed level.
It very well could be. definitely. Go
how
small,
much-
go big, pop a couple big ones, pop a couple small ones, see if there's any, big significant differences, if there's anything that's just a standout. Pop a couple of, middle, the average size, pop a few of those, see if there's any differences. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these would all be like really cool, fascinating. I'm just throwing ideas out there. I no means like testify that these things are what. Yeah, these are just rough ideas, stoner ideas, man.
Yeah, just
Again, that would be the interesting. What if you could bring the technology to do the analysis to help you with the analysis, and when you suddenly have. Okay, every seed is roughly different. Okay, I just hit the true F2 stage because everything just went. Okay, nothing is kind of the same here. Or there's lots of little. There's loads of little groups that are all the same, but they're small little clusters of seeds that are all roughly the same. And then you get to a point where they're all uniformly the same. You go, okay, maybe at that point and again, it would be great if it was that easy.
I would say too, like maybe there might also be some differences, especially because as we've talked about so many times, the massive hybridization, right? So like Magma deals with a lot of landrace stuff on either side, I guess. Like, and I'm talking about playing with the deep chunk, which I guess would be pretty close. I mean, it's not really messed with, but it's highly worked. Is there more of a consistency, you think, in those land races and their seed size versus are we getting all these varying sizes because of the polyhybridism? I don't know. Magma might be a little more qualified to speak on this than myself, especially. Sorry to put you on the spot, man.
I think you're onto something. Like I've seen from a lot of the African varieties that they have a tendency to have smaller seeds. And then like from what I've been able to pick up and from my own experiences, I had some seeds from China that were really much bigger, almost double size, almost looked like small nuts. And I heard that I think it's like 12 seeds on a gram on those. So I think there's regional differences that come into play, and I'm thinking maybe the calyx bract size comes into play a little bit. And like you said, also, if it's really densely seeded, the seeds might be competing for the space, especially if they seed early before it has like all the hairs and the buds have really started to swell. I think that could change the seed size. Like you say, when you if you get a branch where you have a few seeds, I'm sure those are able to swell to the full size without any pressure from the outside.
Yeah. And then would there be a difference as does anybody see? I've never done feminized seeds. I mean, like I've used allegedly the mystery grower, at least I know, has used feminized seeds. And I've held packets, I've seen them. But is there a difference? Is there more consistency in feminized seeds compared to regular seeds? Just as another.
I think it would depend how worked the line is.
Yeah.
So I mean, like depending on how work the line is. So if it's more stable, you'll see less variation in seed size, or if I mean, that's a great hypothesis to put to the test. How are we going to test this?
The only experience I've ever had growing feminized seeds is somebody who actually labeled what they were. If they're feminized or they reverse, it was ethos. It was RBX1, reverse backcross 1. That's the only person I've ever seen that I know of that I've grown that's actually, what they actually were as far as just outside of just being feminized. And I think I popped 2 of them, and they were damn near identical. They're almost identical. They're very stable. Yeah, and that was the Lilac Diesel RBX1, I believe is what it was. But yeah,
B what?
It was a RBX1 is how he labeled it. How he labeled it, not my words.
Oh yeah. So all the other lemmings are jumping off the cliff. Yeah.
It's a RBX1.
Well, and I'm doing like a further, I'm kind of curious. I'm doing one more seed experiment right now. Our friend Rasta Jeff was mentioning that when he does seeds, he thinks that sunlight and photosynthesis is the most important input in getting those seeds nice and healthy and ripe. So I decided to put that to the test. I took something that I've bred a number of times, deep chunk. I did another run of deep chunk just to make some more deep chunk seeds to see what happens. But then I decided to take these wonderful looking nugs that I should have put right in the finishing flower, and I normally would have finished and would have been awesome to smoke, but I went and reverted them for 24 weeks of 24 hours. And then now they're back in the veg for 18. So this is going to be interesting to see if this actually produces a faster or more productive seed harvest than I would normally get out of flower by increasing the amount of, I mean, the buds are going to go to hell, that's for sure. I mean, they still look like, donkey dicks, but they're going to start stretching, I'm going to think, here really soon. Because like I said, they just got a week of 24 hours and now they're back in the veg. So we'll see if that actually produces a better, riper, more solid seed and a better seed count than I normally would get. So I'm kind of curious.
Well, actually, I mean, I'm going to put this out to everybody watching in chat and that, okay, so the hypothesis is that seed size is an indicator. The variety in seed size that you get is an indicator of the stability of the line, and that in that generalization of like, if you go spread 200-300 seeds out, you're going to see 50% of them are roughly the same size, and then 25% are way bigger and 25% are way smaller. If you then grow out a portion of the 25 that are small, the 50, 10 from the 25 that are small, 10 from the 50 that are roughly the same, and the big ones, do you see that plants, can you go, okay, those were definitely all the big seeds. I can tell they all have similar phenotypic expression in the environment that they've been grown in, and ideally grow all of them in the same environment as well. I mean, that would be fantastic. If call to arms, if people can do that and we can start to figure it out, it would be really interesting. So that would be the hypothesis, that you can tell the difference. You can tell how stable your breeding line is based on the size of seeds, the variety and size of seeds from a cross that gets done.
Do you think the pollination time plays into it also?
More to the point is that if they're all pollinated all the seeds should be the same size, regardless of when they were pollinated. So if you heavily pollinated, they will all be small. Let's say if you lightly pollinated, they would all be bigger. But what you would see is if you'd heavily pollinated, you get a portion of them where some of them were bigger than the rest and some of them were smaller than the rest. You know what I mean? So the actual size is, you'd still get the variety in size even if it was heavily pollinated or lightly pollinated.
I follow.
In chat too, we're getting some talk about striping on seeds. And the coating and stuff. And to be honest, I've kind of played around with that a little bit. I sacrificed some seeds to kind of experiment with it. I'm fairly certain that looks like a wax of some sort. That is not, because that stuff flakes off fairly easily once it gets dry. On fresher seeds, it's a lot harder to get it to come off. But once they've been around a little bit, you can see that striping actually get knocked off in storage. So I'm fairly certain that is wax or fat of some sort, some sort of lipid that's basically my guess is it's a regulator, because this is what little research I've done. It's part of the regulation to make sure that if there's moisture around, it doesn't get to the seed too quickly and start germination. From what I've been able to understand from reading about it, it's basically a natural lipid that the seed uses to decide when it's appropriate to germinate and when it's not. So that kind of lets it get some age on it, lets it survive maybe some moist environments before it's quote unquote wet enough to actually germinate. So again, from the research I've done, that's what the thinking is behind that being a waxy or lipid layer, is it moderates the germination time for the seed.
Yeah, one of those things I've definitely noticed, that if it's got I mean, I've noticed that they can germinate a little bit quicker if they've got it, but I think it's if they're mature and they've got it because it does come off quite
Exactly.
readily. And
Gotta
if
be
they're
mature.
slightly immature, when I say immature, it's like they've been cured
fresh.
seeds. They could,
They're
yeah, if
fresh.
they're really fresh, to
Exactly.
make them germinate quicker, you've got to if you rough that off or
Mhm.
scratch them off, they'll kick in.
But with some natural
Um,
time, that wax dries and becomes brittle and naturally comes off. I think that's kind of nature's way of giving it a little bit of time to get to maturity itself as a seed. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm anthropomorphizing my own cardinal sin.
I think it has to do with cultivar as well. I've gone through a lot of seeds lately, and like the banana OG hardly striped at all. Very, very, very light striping, if it has any striping on them at all, and they're very mature seeds. Actually, I ran a few of them a little bit too long in the plants, and I had a few seeds crack on the plants. So yeah, they were all very mature, but yeah, I mean, I got some that are like super thick, heavy tiger stripes, and then like these don't hardly have any on them at all. So yeah, it's interesting when you start seeing that many kinds of seeds and what the plants they came from and the differences and stuff. I thought it really interesting how much genetics really plays a part in all of it. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm assuming you're saving your B grade seeds and all the stuff that don't look perfect, right? You're still saving them?
Right now I haven't gone through and sorted anything. I haven't
Okay.
sorted. Yeah, I got right now. This is everything I got for the banana OG outside of the one plant. The one plant I just
Yeah.
shoved it and it went right into the freezer.
I got you.
After it dried out.
Well, for kicks, what I do is when I do separate them, I'll take the B grades and I'll pop a bunch of them just to see how healthy they are. Like the ones that I'm like, there's no way that's going to pop. I'll throw them down just to see what they do because I'm not going to keep them anyway. I can eat them. I can throw them in a salad. I can feed them to the worms, whatever. But I always test my B grades. Those are fun.
Yeah, I'll have plenty of them. It's not like I got a huge seed bank or a company name. Most of these things will hang out right here.
Right on. Well, test pop some of the ones you don't think that'll pop just to see. That's
Yeah.
always fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna just do a germ test here in about anytime. I should just pop, throw 20 of them in a cup and just germ test them. I got plenty of them.
Nice.
Yeah, but then you suddenly hit that problem like, shit, 20 pop. Fuck, you know what? Maybe I can actually get these going.
No, dude, I get way too much work right now to fuck with new plants.
Oh man, it's telling them off that's the most difficult to do all of a sudden at times. Like, maybe.
Tell me about it.
Maybe.
Living in plant count state, man, you just got to steel your nerves and get used to it. Just forget about them once they're dead. Once they're dead, just forget about them. They're worm food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might just germ them in a cup. Might not even take them to soil. Once you see those leaves, then it's when it gets tempting. Might just be like, they popped a tail in 2 days. I'm good. Toss them out. All of them.
Don't give them names. Don't name them. Don't name them. Once you name them, you can't kill them.
It'll be fun to start going. I know that.
No, but I mean, I got curious the same reason. Like, I wanted to see, can that deep chunk, what does that actually do? Because you always hear, it's so work, it stands up. But now I'm curious to see if it actually can do it. Like, what does it actually do? Because I've never really seen too many things it's bred with.
Yeah.
What's the difference between deep chunk and a land race? I wonder. Is it just so worked on either side? I don't know. Like I said, I wonder what makes something a land race.
It's been grown outdoors in that area for a bastardly long time, and it's
so
just
necessitating terroir,
open pollination.
Nice. And that
heirloom would be cultivated land races. Would be heirloom races. Would be like cultivated land races.
And that would be how you'd market terroir and stuff and weed. Okay.
But I became privy to some seeds just recently that came from an Afghani farmer from a soldier who's been growing them for a couple of years, and he sent me some of them. But those are straight heirloom Afghani seeds, so it'll be really, really cool to go through some of those. But yeah, I'll be neat to see just the consistency in them and what's been made of them over all those years.
Well,
And the other thing, those would be really good as like, primary
Lots.
genetic material as a building block, because you may find they themselves are like relatively unimpressive, but the second you hit it against something, that's
Right.
when it kicks in. I mean, that's definitely what you notice with like Durban poison, was when you cross it with something else, it brings something. It by itself, yeah, it's pretty good, but when you cross it with something else, it suddenly steps up.
Right. It brings out a little bit more of the characteristics in it. But yeah, I'm really excited to get my hands on those. And there's a lot of cool stuff sitting around waiting, just plant counts and time.
And that's going to be worth honestly. I mean, Lefty, it may have been different a while ago, but that's going to be really worth preserving.
Oh, absolutely.
Given current geopolitics, Afghanistan is having, they've lost 11 capital cities in almost as many days. So Kabul may fall soon. So yeah, guard that well, my friend. Guard that well and preserve it if you can.
Yeah, these came from the Kandahar area, I guess.
Yeah, I'm growing some bulk seeds from Afghanistan now. They really smell nice and got big leaves.
What kind of smells you getting?
Kind of sweet smells. But I don't know, they're still in veg, so I'm not putting too much into it. But compared to my other strains, I feel like they have the most smell at least.
I wonder if that relates back to those alcohol-based terpenes and terpenoids that are kind of endemic to that.
Yeah, it might be. They're going into flowering soon, so they seem to be really nice. And yeah, I think those are probably worked. So more like heirloom. And like when I was in India, you could find a lot of what I would almost consider landrace, because it's like you can find it everywhere, just growing wild. And in certain valleys, where you have families that grow, I think the varieties are more worked and more selected. So those regional differences really play in.
Yeah, you're going to certainly get the more heirloom varieties, and you'll find one farmer is completely different to another farmer just around the corner because environmental difference. It's like they're on a more windy slope. They've picked completely different plants over the years.
Yeah, and knowledge. Even when I was on the countryside, you had some people, everything they grew was with seeds, and the quality was really low. And then you had other people that had like maybe 1 or 2 seeds in the bed. So they were trying to remove all the males, and they were trying to do clones and keep stuff. So I think when you go to the different farms, you find like, depending on how deep they are, how much knowledge they have, you're going to see a craft that comes out of that region. And it was really big regional differences when I was in India, like from Maharashtra to the Himalayas. It was completely different. It was like they didn't have any knowledge in one place, and the other place it was
yeah
bread and butter.
Yeah, it would definitely.
Do you think that reflects on who their market is for it? Is it for themselves? Is it for someone else? Is it for tourists? Is it for
I think it was like
region?
I think it was based on the customer experience in certain places, because some places were like just doing export straight out, so people weren't coming there. There was like no culture connected to it. And it didn't seem like those places really cared what they grew. So the quality normally was lower. And then you had people that maybe went up in the Himalayas and they trained and they learned how to do the good charas and stuff like that. And I think once they got that passion, they wanted to get better and get good results.
That's something to keep in mind too when you're looking at some of these land races and where they come from. You know, if you're talking about anything from like Nepal or northern India or anything up in there, they grew a lot of their stuff. It's all hash there. You
Mm.
know, all charas, and Afghanistan, Pakistan, it's all dry sift and stuff like that. It's like, these are just these plants are for hash. A lot of these plants are just for hash. They're not made, they weren't bred or farmed for flower consumption.
No,
And
not at all.
that's what excites me about it, because I love hash. I love smoking a nice temple ball and aging a nice temple ball, and that's what's got me so excited again about this Afghani heirloom that I'm getting. It's just that,
Mm. Mm.
yeah, think about these land races and everybody's like, well, it does this or does that, and it's like, well, maybe they didn't intend for it to even grow its full life cycle of flower maturity. They've done rubbed it and taken it down by the time it gets to that point. You know what I mean? It's like you never know what it's intended to actually be used for from its point of origin.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a really good point about, the landrace cultivars were, I mean, they have been cultivated over time. I mean, absolutely. And they've been cultivated to match what that culture was getting out of it. So if they went down that hash route, again, if you're looking for, just the point being, look at what you're growing in terms of what you're trying to get at the end product. If you want something that's going to be smokable bud, maybe don't look at land raised cushes, because although you hear kush, 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 it's usually crossed with something else and it's been really selected and worked by the time it gets there. But the land raised version, OG Kush, is not land raised Kush. It'll be a very different plant between those two, for instance. And all these things that have Kush in the name, it's because it's in the lineage. It's not like the landrace thing. So, it's that sudden surprise, oh, I bought this landrace Kush and it's nothing like. I thought it'd be like, do you know what I mean? It's you've got to understand. But when you mix it with something else and you bring its resin producing qualities to something that is a bud that's more for smokable, aimed at smoking, that kind of morphology, and that's where it gets interesting.
I don't know if people actually realize that Kush is a region and not just a
Mm,
strain.
yeah. No, precisely.
Right. So yeah, it's a region where things came from. So
Mm. Well, it's
Well,
like
I think
champagne. It's got to be from that area to be to carry that name.
right, right.
I think Mertz and I were talking the other day. It seems like, well, especially Kinky was weighing in on this, and there seems to be four basic ways that people have culturally interpreted it. You're either a flower culture, you're an edible culture, you're a hash culture, or a concentrate culture, and then under that you've got like North Africa, where they smoked unpressed resin in a lot of places, I guess, just a straight up keef rather than pressing it and aging. But even then, it kind of falls into the same thing. So call it 3 or 4 different groups, but those seem to be the basic lineages. You either eat it, you smoke the flower, or you find a way to consume it as a concentrate. And I suppose Europe slowly brought on board the idea of drinking it in alcohol.
Hmm. Yeah. It's definitely some of the cultures. It kind of blows their mind when you show them consumption in a different way. They're like, really? Okay, well, how would you want to do it like that? That doesn't make sense.
Well, look how much fun we've had with you talking about like cobs and fermented weeds and stuff like that. Like that's, a completely different cultural experience, but it's from a flower culture that we're just working with what they had.
In a completely different effect.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what kind of gets them usually. Is like, why would you do it for that? That's not the, they haven't some of these haven't explored the other effects available. They've locked onto, and that's usually where you probably see it being more used as a cultural in a religious ceremonies and things like that, because or in medicinal use, it's not for getting you buzzed off your tits. Like, why would you do it that way? You do know what I mean? Most of the Western way of trying to consume is how high can I get and how fast can I get there?
Well, and also we're a smoking culture. If you're eating, like you're talking about the cobs, you can chew on them, you can put them in food. Like it really depends on your mode of intake. Sorry, Raptor, I apologize for interrupting.
No, I was just agreeing that it can be experienced in so many different ways, and that only through us talking like this are we able to know anything about this. Like I wasn't aware that you could ferment cannabis and get a different result. You know, it's a different chemical expression just because it's going through different environmental conditioning, I should say.
Well, and hopefully soon we'll have a lab test to, have a couple episodes on, like spread across here or the neighborhood and stuff, just to talk about what we get out of this. Because hopefully I got a few we're going to get tested just to see, is there a difference in its absorption rate when making a beverage? Is there a difference in its, what I mean, just to see what has this fermentation done other than changed its color. Or like you can see the trichomes on my picture changed literally milky trichomes to weird yellow golden ones. Whatever that is. I don't even know what that is. Yeah, my picture right now, I jumped on here. That is a fermented bud right there. That's just the trichomes on a fermented bud. So it's, yeah, they got a weird color to them, but that's after a short fermentation.
Sorry, I'm just replying to somebody in chat here. It was Blind Cat 420, one of my favorite chili peppers. I would actually say I only grew out ones and I really liked it. I should do it again. Was the chocolate habanero. The habaneros as a family of peppers I really like because they've got such good variety just across them. I mean, you get peach habaneros, you get the white ones, the chocolate habaneros, and the chocolate habaneros are bastard hot. They're a nice all-rounder kind of pepper. Everything is on there like the hot side of things, but they're really, it's not that Trinidad Scorpion sort of level. I mean, I'm not into that kind of extreme end of it. Years and years ago, sure, but nowadays it's like I'd rather be able to still get through it, just because I don't eat that much of it anymore. Well, I say that end of this season, I'm going to have to go through pounds of the bloody stuff. Going around and having a look through the greenhouse, and there's just so many in there. Right. Well, that draws us to the hour. Thanks for everybody joining in on the panel. It's good to be back. Thanks everybody in chat. If you would like to join in and jump in on the after show, I will post the link up in chat. You're welcome to join in. And yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. So let's have a quick round. Lefty, where can everybody find you, sir?
Lefty's Farm on Instagram and on Cannabis. I am approaching 1,000 followers actually. So I'll
nice.
something as far as a giveaway or something very, very soon. So yeah, check it out.
Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. And Magma, where can everybody find you, sir?
I can also be found on Instagram and on my website, my name and .com.
And that's magmaseeds.com.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody, because yeah, I don't think your image is coming up, so I'm not going to spell it out. There it is, Magma Seeds. People can get it. And Raptor, where can everybody find you, sir?
I'll post it in chat.
Thanks, GMF. I'm Raptor Grow. You can find me at Raptor Grow on Instagram. You could find me here, the Operation Grow Show, same time, same place. Yeah, we are gonna be doing a lot more breeding, so I'm looking forward to the conversations in the future. Check me out also on the Neighborhood Grow Show, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern, 12 a.m. UK on Mondays. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
No, as always, good to have everybody here. And GMF, where can we find you, sir?
Oh, usually hanging out in the kitchen, fermenting up something weird or making something, or hanging out in the garden over on the neighborhood, or hanging out here with y'all. But hit me on Instagram if I can be helpful to anyone. Genetic Memory Farms. I've had a lot of people ask me questions about kombucha and scobies lately, especially because I've been infusing them. So if anybody's got any questions I can answer about food prep in general, like I said, I had a bakery. I've done a lot of different candies and stuff, just to make a living. So if anyone's got food questions or whatever, hit me up. And I like to be helpful. And thank you, Pete, for making this platform for everybody. That's very thoughtful of you to do.
Absolute pleasure, man. Absolute pleasure. And you can find me at PL Grow Systems on Instagram, as well as at Operation Grow 2019. I just posted a link up to the website where you can find the Minder unit for environmental monitoring, and also you can pre-order our the soon to launch CO2 monitor that will be going live by the end of the month. So yeah, do dive in there. Also, I think we posted a few links during the show, one of them being to our little merch store with the I see your crystals and raise you science stickers. So if you want to help support the show, that's the way to do it. Please do. That'd be great. We most appreciate it. And yeah, as I said, feel free to jump into the after show. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks everyone. Stay safe and see you all next week, where we'll be discussing